Kids, be free. Be whatever you are, do whatever you want to do. Just so long as you don't hurt anybody.
Sekiro: Shadows Die Twice was released last week, and I've been playing a shit ton of it. I won't lie, I enjoy it a ton. While I was playing it though, I got a lot of flashbacks to when I was playing Bloodborne. Of course, both of these games are From Software games, but they don't feel at all alike. At least, not at first. Right off the bat, I admit I did not beat Sekiro all the way through yet. The game is damn difficult, but I think I've played enough to make an educated opinion on its content. I did, however, beat Bloodborne 100%, and I actually survived the experience.
I hate myself. Oh, I hate myself. I hate myself. Oh, I hate myself.
Mostly. So, just for fun, let's compare these games in a battle to the death as to which is the better game. Let's start with the first biggest difference: the combat. From Software games are known for hack-and-slash combat that has more strategic elements in it. Your attacks are slower and you can't cancel them. Every time you press a button, you commit to an action, which is a departure from similar hack-and-slashes like Dynasty Warriors, for instance. From Software games are even more well-known for being quote-unquote hard. I'm not a fan of saying these games are hard because I think that undermines its true strengths as a game. Their clever level design, their fun boss fights, and their perfect mix of action and RPG mechanics. In short, FromSoft games are actually RPGs that punish you heavily for careless actions and always have ways for you to improve your skills and stats. Both games are true to their heritage. Where they differ is in the mechanics. Bloodborne has a fair variety of diverse weapons with their own pros and cons. Some are slow and powerful, others are fast and weak, and everything in between. From what I've played of Sekiro, I've never come across another weapon. You get your sword at the beginning of the game, and that's all you get for a long while. What Sekiro lacks in variety, it makes up for in sheer mechanics. Like in Dark Souls, the block function is back, but it has changed a bit. Instead of just blocking damage, your block can do damage. See, if you block at the right time, you'll deflect the damage. A deflect doesn't do physical damage, instead it does posture damage. Think of it like you have two health bars, your regular health bar and your posture. The posture dictates the defensive ability of your opponent. If the bar is full, it means they have no defense and you can kill them with one hit, which is referred to as a death blow. The deflect is very similar to the parry from Bloodborne, where you shoot an enemy before the attack lands. The death blow is very similar to the visceral attack, only Bloodborne requires you to land either a backstab or a parry first. Early on in Sekiro, you're given a prosthetic arm that can be fitted with multiple different types of weapons. This is somewhat similar to the gun in Bloodborne, but it has a lot more combat viability than the gun does. For instance, you have a long-range shuriken, a short-range fire weapon, and a firecracker launcher. No, I'm not joking. All of these can be upgraded as well. While this is cool, the prosthetic requires spirit emblems to use, and you're not given too many. This makes the prosthetic arm more of an enhancement rather than a standalone weapon, much like how the gun is in Bloodborne. It is entirely possible to beat the game without ever using it once. Sekiro is, however, entirely absent of trick weapons. Bloodborne has weapons that are often 2 weapons in one. A normal club that turns into a buzzsaw, a spear with an attached shotgun, a small sword that fits into a bigger greatsword, and so on. These trick weapons have transformation attacks. When you attack, you can transition between weapons, while also performing an attack. Transformation attacks also do more damage, so there's strategies, advantages, and tricks to learn. There are 2 ways to upgrade your weapons in Bloodborne. First is to use a blood gem, some of which can do elemental damage. The second way is upgrading your stats with blood echoes. The damage you inflict with a weapon depends on your skill stats. You do higher damage with a skill weapon when you have higher skill, for instance. These RPG-style stats are mostly absent in Sekiro. All you have is your vitality and attack power, which can only be increased by defeating bosses. Due to these lack of stats, there isn't a lot of room for builds. One last important difference involving combat is the stamina system. Sekiro has no stamina bar. That means you can attack and sprint indefinitely. This is notable because this is the first From Software game to ever not have a stamina bar. Stamina management was one of the most important skills to learn in Dark Souls, and now it's gone. On the surface, you would think that makes the game easier. Alright, it's about time we talk about the difficulty.
True face, eh?
Ironically, difficulty is one of the most difficult things to talk about, because it's very subjective. I've heard many people say that Sekiro is the hardest Souls game in the series. The only problem with that is it's hard to quantify why one Souls game is harder than the other. What precisely makes the game harder? The boss fights, the enemies, the exploration, the RPG progression, the amount of grinding? Mechanically, the Dark Souls games are very similar in difficulty. You have all the same mechanics, just in a different setting. Bloodborne is different because there's no block mechanic. Your only defense is to dodge. Everything. Which could make a game a nightmare if you've never played Dark Souls that way. While Bloodborne only has the sidestep, Sekiro lets you sidestep, jump, and deflect. Every move can be dodged, but most moves can be deflected, which is oftentimes far more effective for killing bosses and large groups of enemies. Sekiro has a much bigger emphasis on personal sword fighting rather than the hit-and-run tactics of Bloodborne. Many of the boss fights will have you deflecting sword attacks while fighting back only during an opening. If you try to dodge every attack, it tends to make the boss fight drag on, and since you have very little health and healing items, it's much more practical to learn the boss's deflect timings. If anything turns you off of Sekiro, it'll most likely be because of this style of gameplay. In one respect, the fights are much faster and more intense, but at the same time, many of the boss fights will start to feel interchangeable. Bloodborne is not as quick as Sekiro, but it still encourages a very aggressive playstyle. You have 20 healing items, an upgradable health bar, and the ability to regain lost health by attacking. So after all that pointless yammering, which game is better? It's a very close contest. When I was first writing the script, I thought these games were totally different from each other, but the more I started writing about it, the more similar the games became. Obviously, both games have wildly different stories, and it still has those wonderful item descriptions. I find Sekiro's plot much more straightforward than Bloodborne's. Your sexually ambiguous master was taken, and you must murder the entire population of planet Earth to get him, her, oh fuck it. Also big black chickens. 'Cause why not, I guess. Bloodborne has a clusterfuck of a plot that has no defined end goal until the last half of the game. Also giant pigs. 'Cause why not, I guess. So, which game is better? Sekiro is a great game. I enjoy it a ton. But I like Bloodborne more personally. I'm a big fan of Lovecraft and RPGs, so that makes Bloodborne mesh a lot better with me. I could see someone enjoying Sekiro over Bloodborne, however. The feudal Japan setting, the personal intense sword fighting, the badass shinobi main character, it's very close. It just depends on your taste above all. If I had to rate Sekiro, I would say it's the greatest weeaboo simulator of all time. I'll give it 11 million out of 10. Didn't really care for it. IGN. Yep. Yeah. I'm proud of that. Yeah.